Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It's great to see you all back here again. Today we are going to go through creating custom kitchen islands and saving those islands to our library so we can have multiple options available easily. We're also going to work with some custom countertops and some other elements of the islands. We do have several people here with us as well, so several other employees here to help us out. So if you do have a question, feel free to chat that in. There is a question portion where you can ask that and you'll see a response from one of the several employees here to help us out. And also at the end, so I'm going to go through kind of a presentation, and at the end we will have some question and answer portion as well. So if you have a mic set up, feel free to, at the end of our presentation, ask that question. We'd love to be able to address that live. This is recorded today, so we are going to be sending out the recording probably tomorrow, so you'll be able to rewatch it. Don't feel like you have to absolutely remember every single thing that I'm doing during this presentation, because we are going to upload that and send that over to you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to jump right into Chief Architect. And I have a plan open here that I'm going to be working with. The shell of the kitchen minus the island is finished. And so now we're going to just hone in on the island portion. I'm going to begin by opening up a 3D view, and I actually have a camera saved here, so I'm just going to double click to open that up. And you can see this camera view. I like to have 2D and 3D side by side. That's just my preference. I think it makes it easier. When I do something in 2D, I can see the update in 3D and make sure that everything is aligned and looking the way I want it to. So to do that, we have two different ways. We can go under the window menu and we can tile the views vertically. Now this will take every view that you have open and it will tile it. So if you have multiple camera views or multiple plan views, it's also going to tile those. Or we can just grab this tab that's holding the camera view, click and drag to pull it out, and drop it right into view. So we can rearrange these. You can have multiple views open. If you want one to be larger than the other, you can also rearrange them there. And now I'm going to just zoom in on this kitchen, zooming in with my scroll wheel for those of you who are not aware of that. And I'm going to start creating this island. Now let's take a look at the first island we're going to create here. So this is our first island that we're going to work on. So we're going to start by creating the base cabinets over in this section. Then we'll create a custom countertop, and we'll go ahead and extend the countertop over so that we can have some eating area. And then we'll add in some accessories. So we have some columns that are holding up this countertop, some stools, pendants. So we'll place all of that at the end. All right, so to begin with, what I like to do is just place one base cabinet, get that base cabinet dimensioned before I place all of the others. This I find to be the easiest way for us to get the walkway set before I add in the rest of the cabinets. But I'll show you another way that we can dimension a full island a little later. So I'm going to take this one cabinet that I've placed, I'm going to rotate it around. So I have that rotate handle so the door is facing the other direction. And now I'm going to actually use my manual dimension tools. I'm in my kitchen and bath plan view, which means I'm using my kitchen and bath dimensioning. And I'm going to use an end-to-end dimension to just draw a dimension in between the cabinets so I can get my walkway set. Then I'm going to select this cabinet, and if I hover over top of the dimension, you can see my mouse changes to a cursor. So I can click right on that dimension and type in what I want it to become. So I want to have some nice big 48-inch walkways here. And once I have that one cabinet placed, what I can do is all of the other cabinets can be placed in relation to that first cabinet. So I'm just going to drop in another cabinet, and it's going to snap right up against it. Now I'll resize this cabinet. This one's going to be 48 inches wide. And then I'm going to place another cabinet in the back here that we're going to change to a bookshelf. So I'll just place it and then I'll redimension it, then we'll open it up to edit it. So I'm going to resize it to 18 inches deep and 72 inches wide. Nice big bookshelf area. Then we'll open this up. And I'm going to click on any component over here in the preview, and it'll bring me down to the front sides back panel, where I can begin to make additional edits to the individual components of this cabinet. So I'm going to select this area and change it to an opening. And I can leave the drawer. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So we have just one big opening. And then I want to split this into 3 vertical sections. So I'm going to select this big area, split it vertically, select a component again, split it vertically one more time. And then I can dimension each of these individual sections. So you can see I have 3 openings here if I want to change the width. Or I can click on the entire horizontal layout, so all 3 of those openings will select, and I can equalize them. So I have 3 equal openings in this bookcase. Now, if I want to edit the shelves, I can select any of these components, and we have a specify button so that I can open that up, and I'm going to switch over to manual so I have more control over what these shelves are doing. And I'm going to choose just one shelf. And maybe I'll make this one a little bit thicker too. So we'll do an inch thick shelf. And then I'm going to leave the other 2 components as they are. And once I've made all of the changes I want to do with this cabinet, I'll select OK, and you can see those changes applied. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a custom countertop. So there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. First, we do have a custom countertop tool, and we're going to use that a little bit later. The second way is to actually just use our basic 2D CAD tools, and then we can convert that countertop over. So I'm not really going to use that one for our island, but just to show you what that looks like, we have a polyline tool, and when we use this tool, we can see it in 2D, but not in 3D, until we actually select it and convert it over. So sometimes I like to use this method if I have a really irregular shape to my countertop. So I will just draw out that shape line by line. And then as soon as those lines connect and form a closed polyline, so I can see the fill within here, at that point I can use my convert polyline to convert it over to that custom countertop. So some of you that are doing really intricate shapes, drawing it out line by line sometimes can be the easiest way to accomplish it. But here's the other way, and this is how we're going to do it right now. We're going to go ahead and select all of the cabinets that are currently making up this island. I'm just holding down my control key to select all of those. And then down in the edit toolbar, we have a generate custom countertop is what it's called. So what that's going to do, you can see nothing changed in my 3D view, but what it's done is it's taken this countertop and removed it from the component of the cabinet. So now we have more control over editing the countertop. So you can see it's a polyline just like I was working with before, except it does have 3D data, so we have that custom countertop. Now, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to create some breaks in this polyline, because right now I have 4 sides, 4 edges to this countertop. And if we take a look at the final image we're creating, I need to eventually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So each break that I create in this countertop, if I select the edge, come down, here's the break tool. When I create a break along an edge, I've created another edge for this polyline. So now when I pull this out, I have a 5-sided object. And when I create another break and pull out this diamond again, now I have a 6-sided object, and I can now manipulate it into its correct position. So I'm going to grab this edge and just pull it out a little bit. And I'm going to use some tools that we have in the edit toolbar to make this line and this line parallel with this wall. So what I'm trying to do is maximize the amount of space that we have here. We have kind of an unusual space to this room. So in order to maximize our countertop space, I'm going to make these lines parallel so we have a walkway that comes right through here. So I'll take this line. You can tell that it is selected because it has a large red edit handle. And down in the edit toolbar, I'm going to use make parallel perpendicular. So I'll select that, and then I'm going to hover right over what I want to make it parallel to. And we'll clean up the edges a little bit later, but I just want to get the general angles correct first. Then I'm going to select this edge and do the same thing. So we'll make it perpendicular in this case. And if I ever get that message, I should have left it up. Let me show you what it says. It's a very common message to get. and it just says, hey, I'm not going to be able to rotate this without disconnecting it. So when we do get that, what we want to do is just get it a little bit more in line with where it needs to be. And actually, I think I just rotated it to exactly what I want it to be. But let's move just like that. There we go. So now I'm going to take this line and I'm going to use the make parallel perpendicular. And because I was a little bit closer to what I was wanting to become, it was able to see what I wanted to do. And I'm going to do it one last time with this line. Again, make parallel perpendicular. I think it might already be, but just to make sure. All right, so now I have some solid, the angles that I want, and I'm just going to increase the length of this, and I'm going to increase the width of this until we meet up right here. So you can see I can use my snap handles, my snap indicators to be able to snap right to that corner. And then I'm going to take this temporary dimension. Because I have this line and this line in place, I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to use my temporary dimension to move this edge into position. So I'm just going to type in 44 inches, hit enter, and now it's resized. And a couple of things we're going to do with this countertop. I'm going to go ahead and select it, double click to open it up. Later we'll work with changing the thickness and the height, but I'm going to leave the thickness and height as the default that we pulled from the cabinets that we generated this countertop from. And the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a molding. So we have a moldings panel here where I can just select add new. And here in my library, I'm going to go ahead and extend this out until I find an edge molding. Select one that I like. And if we zoom in, you can see that molding applied to the edge. Right now, the height of that molding is 2 3/8. I have an 1.5 inch thick countertop, so I'm just going to reduce this molding down to 1.5 inch thick. I may need to reduce the width, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 5/8. And that's the only thing I'm going to change about this countertop right now. I'll select OK. You can see that molding is applied. We'll clean up the materials here in a bit. So now what I want to do is add in another molding going around the edge of the back of this island. So one thing I forgot to do when we were looking at this bookshelf, I'm going to open it up again. I actually don't want a closed toe or an open toe at all. For the bookshelf, I'm going to go ahead and remove the toe kick. We'll just set it to be 0 inches deep. So it's going to be just a main area. And now I can open up the cabinets themselves and I can add a molding around the edge, the base of the cabinet. However, I don't want a molding to extend around the front of the cabinets over in this section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a molding polyline. So I'm going to draw exactly where I want these moldings to go. So I'm going to use my line tool to just draw a line right along the edge of these cabinets. Then I'll select that line. You can see it's all connected. And I'm going to convert the line. So just like we did earlier with converting over to a countertop, this time I'm going to convert to a molding polyline. So I'm saying I would like a molding exactly in those spaces. Yes, I am going to turn that layer on so that we can see the moldings we create in our plan view. And in this molding, the height is 0. That's perfect. I want it to sit right on the floor. And we're going to come down to moldings, add a new one. And this time, instead of an edge molding, we'll go ahead and do a base molding. So find a profile that we like here. Select OK. I'm going to change the height to 3.75. And then down here, we need to see whether or not we're going to extrude inside or outside. So if I select OK and we zoom in on this molding, inside of the line was going, it's a little confusing the way that we drew it, but it's going in the correct direction. I can see it. If I had chosen to extrude outside the line, because of the way that we drew it, it has to do with the start and end points, it would be going this direction. So we're set exactly how we want. If it was going into the cabinet, we can open up a molding and change whether or not we're extruding inside or outside. This makes a little bit more sense when you have a closed polyline. Because we have an open one, it's a little bit different. All right, so there we have that custom molding. And I'm going to drop in in my user catalog, I have saved some items for us to use. And one of them is a column that I'm going to use to support this cabinet. So we do have columns available in the library. I've just saved a bunch of items that we're going to work with today in my user catalog so that I can easily find them. So I'm going to select and just drop it in and then rotate it to get it into position. And then I'm going to use my copy reflect tools to reflect copies of this around the countertop. So I'll start with this one and I'll select copy. And then there's a sub menu so that I can reflect the copy. I'm going to reflect it right over this edge. And then I'm going to select this copy or this one again, and I'm going to copy it again, reflect it over this edge so you can see that indicator. I'm just saying what is the reflection line. One last time, I'm going to copy this last one and reflect it over this edge. So you can see if I hover my mouse over this line, it gives me an indicator for that line. If I hover over here, it's going to reflect over this edge. So we can move that reflection point around to find the correct point. So a couple more items we're going to drop in. I have a gas range here. So to add an appliance or fixture to a cabinet, we're just going to click on the cabinet to drop it in. Then I'm going to drop in some stools. So we'll place maybe 4 stools just to finish out this island. We'll also place some pendant lights. So I'll drop in a pendant light over top of this island and one over here as well. So this is all of the elements of this particular island. The one last thing I need to do is just clean up my materials, and then we're going to go ahead and add it to the library. So I'm going to highlight my camera view so that I can grab some materials. All of the materials that I want to use are already in the plan. So I'm just going to use my object eyedropper, my material eyedropper, excuse me, to grab an existing material. In this case, I'm going to grab this slate material and I'm going to paste it onto all the cabinets in the room. And then I'm going to change my paste mode over to component because I only want to paste this material onto the molding of this cabinet, not onto the rest of the cabinets, which are also using this material. And then I'm going to use the material eyedropper again to grab this countertop material, and I'm going to paste it right onto the edge of this molding. Okay. If there are other materials I wanted to change, you can find the materials in the library and just click to paste them. You can also use your material painter to open up the library and find your full materials here. So there's a lot of different ways we can change materials. Now I'm going to block these items together and save them to the library. So to do that, I'm going to just marquee across. This works best if I do not have anything in my hand, so my cursor is in select mode. Draw a marquee across, so it's going to pick up all the items of my island. Then down in my edit toolbar, I'm going to block them together. It looks like I'm picking up a dimension too, which is why I'm not seeing the block. All right, so let's do a little bit closer. And I'm going to control deselect these dimensions. There we go. It was picking up dimensions, which it doesn't want to block together as well. So once I have just the items of the island itself, down in the edit toolbar, I have a make architectural block. So now I can block that together. It's now one item, so I can move this around as one item. And once it is a block, down in the edit toolbar, I also have this add to library. So I can add it to the library. It's going to come in just under the name untitled. So I'm going to select it and change it over to Island Option A, or however you want to name it, maybe Smith Island A. But we're trying to create several different options here that we can then just drop in easily. So now if I select this island and delete it, I still have that island available in my library. Looks like that name didn't take. Let's rename that again. There we go. Okay, so here is that island option A, and I can just click in the plan to place it. And we'll place one that I created earlier. later on in the webinar. So let's move on to creating another island option. So here's the island we just created. Now we're going to move on to doing this island. So we're going to do a waterfall countertop and then some base cabinets and some panels along the edge. So I'll start just by placing one cabinet again. And this time I'm not going to dimension it until the end, so we can take a look at what that looks like, to change the dimension of the walkway rather. So I'm going to take this one base cabinet, resize it. I didn't mention this earlier, but our cabinets do automatically resize in 3-inch increments. If you would like for it to be a more custom number, you can always open up the cabinet and specify an exact width, height, and depth. So if you're doing something very custom, those 3-inch increments that it's resizing at, you can always override. Then I'm going to place another cabinet, and this one we're going to resize to 36 inches. I'll place one more that's going to be 18 inches. And then we'll do a nice big island here. We'll place 2 more just big 24-inch cabinets. So quite a big island here. The only face items I'm going to change for these cabinets are I'm going to take these 2 18-inch cabinets, open them up, and I'm going to change them over to 3 drawer cabinets. So I'll select the door, the existing door. I'm going to change it over to a drawer before I split it. So I'm going to change it to one large drawer. It was still a door. There we go. And then once I have that changed to a drawer, I'm going to go ahead and split it horizontally. So I have 3 drawers, and then just like we did before, this time I'm going to grab the vertical layout and I'm going to select to equalize. So it'll equalize those 3 drawer items for me. And then I'll select OK to apply that change. We're not going to see it in 3D, but we do see the label change to reflect that it's a 3 drawer. And then I'm going to create the custom countertop. This time I'm going to use the custom countertop tool, and I'm just going to click and drag to draw out that countertop. Then I'll redimension it. So it's going to be 120 inches wide and 18 inches deep. Now I need to center this countertop over this bank of cabinets. We don't have a good center point because all of these cabinets are slightly different variances, or there's not an exact center that we can find. So I'm going to grab this countertop. I'm going to use the center object tool, but we also have a sub option for point-to-point center. So what this lets me do is it lets me choose one point and then another point that I'm going to center right in between. So it's given me a couple of different center points. I can center exactly over top of that line that I drew, or I can keep its y-axis the same, but just change the x-axis. So we'll click and it will center it exactly how we want. Now I'm going to open up this countertop and we're going to deselect to set the thickness from the cabinet. I'm going to do a 2-inch thick countertop. And I'm also going to deselect to set the height from the cabinet. So it's not just going to pull the height from whatever our cabinet countertop is. And instead, floor to top, we're going to do 42 inches. So we're going to do a raised countertop here. Now we have an option here too to add a waterfall to the selected edge. If I check this right now, my selected edge is this back section. You can tell again because I have that larger red edit handle. So before I select that option, I'm going to select OK, make sure that I have the edge that I want to waterfall selected, open it up, and then check Add Waterfall to Selected Edge. So you can see in my 3D view, it's added that. And if I come over to the other side, we also do have a shortcut down in the Edit toolbar. So Add Waterfall to Selected Edge is also right here. So it'll add it on the other side. All right, and if you look here, I need to add essentially a waterfall to the back, but I don't want it to go all the way down because we're going to add some panels to the back of these cabinets. So to add in the gap between our cabinets and our countertop, I'm going to use the backsplash tool that's built into the cabinets themselves. So I'm going to hold down my control key so I can select all of these island cabinets. open them up together. I'm going to select to have a backsplash. That backsplash is going to be 4 inches high and 1 inch thick, and it's going to be always present. So when always present is not checked, that means it needs to be up against a wall for that to generate. When we check always present, that means it doesn't need to be up against a wall. It's always going to show that 4 inch backsplash. So there it fills in the gap. Now I just need to change the materials. So I'm going to grab the material of that countertop. I'm going to paste it into the room because there's no other instance of this material in the room. And now we have that cohesive countertop through the back of that cabinet. So now let's add in these panels. And I have a panel over here that's already been placed. So I'm going to use this one. If I did not already have a back panel, I can find one in the library, whether through one of our manufacturer catalogs or our core catalogs. We have different door and drawer styles that you can just click to place them independently in the plan, separately from a cabinet itself. But I'm just going to grab this panel that already exists. I'm going to copy it, which I'm going to do Control-C is the copy, and then Control-V is the paste. And then I'll paste it right into position. I need to just rotate that and pull it right up against that cabinet. Now I'm going to copy this along the back as well. Before I do that, I want to change the material of it. So let's change the material of all of the island so far and of the panel. So here in this catalog, I have this blue-green color. I'm going to start by pasting it onto all of the room, which this is a good reason to have your island countertops or your island cabinets, excuse me, already be the color, a different color than the rest of the cabinets in your room. That way, when we select to change all of the materials of that color in the room, it wouldn't affect any of the other cabinets that you have in this kitchen. So that's something I recommend, even if you're using the same color, if you can use just a slightly different variance of it. It means that you can paste different color options onto the cabinets of the island and not affect all of the other cabinets, if that's what you want. All right, so for instance, if I were to still be in room and change this panel, it would change every instance of that color throughout the room. So I'm going to switch over to Object, paste it just onto this one panel. Now, the reason why I'm placing these panels independently as opposed to you can open up a cabinet and in that same place where you can edit the components of a cabinet, you can also edit the left, back, or right side. So we could place a cabinet panel here, but I have a number of different sizes for the back of this cabinet, and I would like the panels to be evenly spaced. So I don't want to have a 24-inch back cabinet panel here and a 36-inch one here and an 18-inch. That just wouldn't work for what I'm going for this look. So that's why I'm placing them independently. So I'm going to grab this panel again, and I'm going to copy and paste it onto the back here. And then, whoops, undo that, just moved it. Control-Z is your undo. Then I'm going to grab this back panel, and I'm going to use my multiple copy. So down in the edit toolbar, we have a multiple copy option. We want to double check the interval that we're going to be copying this. So 24 inches is exactly what I want. So when I pull my mouse, hover my mouse right over top of this edit handle and I click and drag, every time I move a little bit further, it's going to create another one at a 24-inch on center interval. So there you can see all of the panels that we've created along the back. So this is a nice way for us to just be able to evenly distribute those panels pretty quickly. Then I'm going to add in some additional stools. The stools that I'm using, I believe all of them are from the Wayfair catalog. These are just the options that I chose. I think most of the pendants that I chose are as well. So that's one of our manufacturer catalogs that we have available for download. So I'll just click to place. We'll do 5 stools here. And then here we have a pendant. I'll place 3 pendants. So if I place them a little off center, We can use our center object tool for this as well. So I'm going to select a pendant, use my center object to just center the pendant right over top of that line. And I can even control select multiple objects, and we'll center them right over top of this countertop here. Okay, so that's an easy way for us to just get these placed to where they're exactly in the center of where we need them to be. All right, and once I have placed all of these items, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to marquee select and block them together. And then I'm going to add that block to the library. And we'll call this one Island Option B. Okay. So I'm going to show how we can drop in one that we already created. So there I have my Island Option B I just deleted. Here in my user catalog, I have a few different islands I created for this scene. So if we take any one of these islands, we can just click to drop it in. And we'll need to rotate it around into place. And then once we block it, or unblock it, excuse me, which we can do by coming down to the edit toolbar and exploding the architectural block. So now each of these cabinets are their own separate element again. These stools are their own element. And now I'm going to go ahead and dimension this island into place. So I'm going to use my manual dimension tool. Going to draw a dimension for the walkway. And then I'm going to marquee select the island, and with them all selected, I can use those dimensions as well. So now I'm going to type in 48 inches and 48 inches to get a 2-person walkway through this kitchen. All right, so that's a nice way for us to be able to swap out those different islands. So now I have in here, I have 4 different islands. You can delete the island, swap it out as many times as you want to give your client some really good options. But we also, let's say that you have decided that this is the island that you want. The smaller portions, so things like our stools and our pendants, we also can use some tools to swap out those options. So let's say we wanted this island, but with a different stool shown here. We can select a stool, and down in our edit toolbar, we have a replace from library. So if I click on this, I'm going to replace all of the identical objects in the room. So all of the stools that are in this room. Then I'm going to open up the library to choose what I want to change it out to. So here in this user catalog, I have a few different stool options. So if I choose one, I can select OK. It's going to tell me that I'm replacing with that stool. Select OK again, and it'll replace all of those stools. Now, obviously, those are not dimensioned well for this particular island. They were dimensioned for a 42-inch. And we are going to need to just move them into place. But it is a nice, easy way for us to get some different options going. So in addition to having the island option saved in your user catalog, if you can have various stool options, maybe some different pendant options saved, you can use that replace from library to really quickly and easily show them different options for that as well. And now I'm just going to change the height of this stool down to, well, we'll do 26 inches high. It's a little bit more appropriate. Okay, so that's how we can utilize these tools to show our clients different options. I'm going to go ahead and transfer things over, and we will, I'm going to open things up to Carrie so we can open up for questions. So you guys have any additional questions that are coming up for you. If you do have a question, go ahead and just raise your hand. There's a raise hand option, and we'll call on everyone that raises their hand. So Carrie, do we have someone that has their hand already raised?
We don't have anyone at the moment. Were there any other announcements?
So here on our website, you guys have already been to this page, but we have this events, trade shows, and training. So if you click on this, it's going to show this is the one that we're in. We have some upcoming webinars. So next week, we're going to talk about kitchen lighting and electrical plans. And then we have a boot camp tomorrow. So for those of you who are new to the program, that's a great one for you to attend as well.
Thanks, Kayla. We have
Of
some
course.
people ready to go. Hi, Laura. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, thanks. I just have a question about when you put that molding around the back of the island, are you
Mhm.
can you draw lines like in the toe kick area of the cabinet so that it returns, like it wraps around the side, but it also
Yeah.
returns into the toe kick?
I think we can do that with this island option here. So I believe I have a closed toe kick. I do. So what I would do is draw the line along the edge, and then we're gonna just continue the line across and down. And it would depend upon how thick our toe kick, our closed toe is, but it's probably an inch thick. And then the toe kick itself is 4 inches. But then when you convert this over to a molding, and we'll just choose a basic molding to add this to so we can take a look at it. It'll wrap around every line that you've drawn, and this is a good example of needing to extrude outside of the polyline. So every line that you've drawn, it's going to go ahead and add a molding to. If there is a particular line, like if for some reason we wanted it inside the toe kick, but not right here, you can always remove from one line at a time as well. So down in the edit toolbar, remove molding from selected edge. If we zoom in here, this is what we have. So if I add that back in, select the edge, add a molding back in. It's wrapping around.
Okay, good. Can I ask another question?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. When you did the when you converted the countertop into the custom countertop and it made it all like one piece, so you could extend it and everything. If there was like void space, like if you had like a mechanical chase in the middle and you turned, like there's like this opening, right? But when you change it into custom, would it close that opening?
I think usually it will, but we have
Okay.
a hole in countertop option. So if you, let's see, I usually do it from a polyline. Actually, I don't have a custom countertop. This is using cabinet countertops, so I'll draw a countertop over here. Here's the cabinet tools. Here's our custom countertop. There's a custom counter hole that you can use. So
Okay.
you can draw a hole in the middle of it, and then that hole can be edited to whatever dimensions and shape you need. Or you can always start just like with the countertop, you can start by just using basic CAD tools and converting that over to a hole in the polyline. Does that help answer that question?
Well, no, actually, I was hoping it was kind of the opposite. Like I have cabinets in, around.
Oh yeah,
with
so
a
then
big
it will
middle.
automatically cover
It'll do
that
that.
hole.
Okay. I just wanted to know. Okay. And then my
And if
last
it
question.
doesn't, you can always click on the hole and just delete it. So that's also,
Okay, good.
yeah.
My last question was, you made that shelf, that open shelf cabinet, and you have shelves there. Is there a way to put molding on the front of those shelves inside the cabinet?
You can. You probably would need to do it with molding polylines. So if you get into an elevation view, you would need to draw out each of the lines just like we did in a plan view. You can draw out lines in an elevation view, convert it to a molding and add it there. I don't think that there's a simpler way to do it than that.
Okay, that helps.
Great.
Thanks.
Of course.
Kayla, we have Otis Bradley here with a question. Go ahead, Otis.
Hey there, Otis. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for your presentation. It's very helpful.
Good. I'm glad. What can I help you with?
So I use both 8 and 12, so this may have changed. But
Okay.
if I'm doing an island with a part of it is bar height EDAT countertop, so I have 2 different levels.
Okay.
And I want to put outlets anywhere in the cabinet. It won't let me do it in 8 because it's not a wall.
Yeah, so I think that is something that changed. So I actually have in my catalog here, I have an outlet. So we have some in the core catalog under mechanical electrical outlets. We have surface mounted now.
Oh,
And so the surface mounted ones will go right onto a cabinet. So you can just click to place it.
And if you wanted to place it on the side of the cabinet too, oh, just like you did there. Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
And then this one, yeah, any cabinet you can place onto the side of any of them. So you can rotate those.
Uh-huh. Very
Yeah.
smart. Thank you.
Of course.
Kayla, we had someone write in and ask if you could demonstrate one more time how to make the waterfall countertop show.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and convert this because right now, oh, I do have a custom countertop here. Okay, so if I select any edge of a countertop, down in the edit toolbar, I have add waterfall to selected edge. So that's one way we can do it. The other way is you can actually open up the cabinet and check or deselect add waterfall to selected edge. And then if you want to have, I didn't mention this before, but it's going to automatically select to miter the edges. But if you would rather have it butt up the edges, you can deselect that option. And you can see now we have a sort of butt against option.
Awesome.
hopefully-
Thanks, Kayla.
Of course.
We have Ken Hurd. Hi, Ken. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Kayla. Another
Hi,
good
Ken.
presentation.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
I'm having
What can I-
trouble putting a sconce on the side of a cabinet.
Okay.
The way around, it seems like it
Let's-
all goes to a wall.
If I take a sconce, let's just type in sconce. And I'm going to show this in the browser. I think what I'm going to need to do is actually bring it into my user catalog. I may have others pipe in if they have a better way, but I'm just going to drag this down to my user catalog. And then if I open the symbol, I may be able to choose cabinet mounted. There it is. So I'll show that again. Any item you can just copy into your user catalog. So I dragged it, but if you just, let's not use that sconce, let's use a different one. Right click to copy, and then down in the user catalog, right click to paste the copy. And then if I right click on the item and I open the symbol under 2D, or excuse me, under options, it's automatically selected to be wall mounted, which is why it'll find walls. But if we change that over to cabinet mounted, it should allow us to just place that right up against a cabinet. There it is.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Kayla, I just want to check in with Edit one more time. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hello. I have,
Hi.
okay, so I have two questions. One would be, how can you change items like the sconce if you want to attribute it?
So what do you want to change about the sconce?
Yeah, maybe different length or different size of the glass, or
Yeah,
just
so
customized.
yeah, once you place the item, you can always open it up. So just double clicking on it, you can open up how high it is on the wall and then its size, width, and depth. You can change its materials. For a sconce, you can add light data, change how it shows up in the schedule. There's a lot of things you can change. If you want to change it before you place it, then you can copy it into the user catalog, right click and open it up and make changes here before you even place the item. But typically I would say you're probably going to place it before you make any changes. Does that help answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, great.
See, I just upgraded to the 12, and it's really amazing. I used to use it the 10.
Oh, great.
And the other question is, I always had trouble to do the plan view for the island. Is there any easier way to do the plan? Delete the back, because I used to put the wall in the back. So
I'm not sure I understand. Can you say that again? So what do you want to do with the plan view?
I like to make a plan view of the island without the cabinet in the back.
Ah, okay. So when you send to your layout, I assume you're talking about in your construction documents, you want to just show the island?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you send to layout, which we'll go ahead and have to create a layout, but let's just send it right here. There's an option to just do current screen. So instead of taking the entire plan, we can just choose the screen as we're zoomed in on. And then in the layout, this box, we can just crop it down. So that's usually the
Oh,
easiest
yeah.
way.
Yep. That's awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Kayla, we have Laura here with a question. Go ahead, Laura.
Hello, thank you. How do you easily draw sinuous curves or curved countertops that are sort of random sizes?
What I always recommend when you're working with curves is that you get the start and end points for the curve first. So you draw a straight line first. So if I had a curve that was going to start over here and end over here, I would get the straight line drawn before I change to a curve. So then I would take this edge down in the edit toolbar. I'm going to change line to arc. And then I just use the edit handle that's going to allow me to edit the radius. So then I can extend that out as far as it needs to go. If I need to be really exact with it, I can then open, whoops, I need to actually have the arc selected. Come on. Not doing a very good job of grabbing that arc. If I open it up, is it going to give me an arc option? For some reason, it keeps grabbing this line. I'll have to look into why that is. But if I had selected the curve, I should be able to adjust the radius of the arc as well. But I'm usually going to actually just use the edit handle to get the radius of it correct. Now, were you also asking about curving like corners, or does that help answer your question enough?
That's the first part. And then, yeah, sometimes we'll put like corbels or columns underneath and we want to carry a curve around it. So it's almost like little balls on the corner of the islands.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and undo to get back to a just straight countertop. Okay. So now that I have just one that's going to be easy to add curves to, I'm going to select this polyline, and down in the edit toolbar, we have a fillet lines option. And before you fillet all the corners, if you do want to fillet all the corners, you can set the fillet radius. And the radius is probably going to be, well, that's going to do just a basic round curve. So we'll set it fairly small to begin with. Let's set it to, I don't know, 2 inches. And now I'm going to select to fillet all the corners. So now if I zoom in, all of these corners are actually their own little corners. So they have those same set of edit handles that I was just looking at. So if you select that, you can adjust the radius to where you have like a little ball for the corner for the corbel to sit on.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Kayla, we have a question from Robin. Hi, Robin. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Robin.
Hi there. I have a couple of questions. I actually have like 10, but I'm only going to ask a couple.
Okay.
The first one is that when you're doing the end panels on a cabinet, I use a custom cabinet maker for all of my projects, and I want to make it look integrated, kind of like you have there with your shiplap, versus it looking overlay or inset. And so when I do something, so like you're adding that as an end panel, but I don't want it as an end panel. I want it integrated in the side of that cabinet as like a frame and panel.
Okay. So if we open up the cabinet, in this case, you're probably going to want to use the front sides back section. And we're going to switch over to the right side. Is that right? Yeah. And I'm going to change over to paneled. So it's going to add a panel automatically to the outside. If I would like to change how that panel is applied, if I change over to, let's do more like, and instead of paneled, I'm going to do custom face. So now I have this blank area. And if I would like to change the blank area over to a panel, where is it? Side
So like
panel.
just door panel or
Yeah,
side.
so we have side panel applied, And then we also have side panel inset. So inset is going to inset it with whatever you have set for your box construction as far as what your overlay is.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily want that because I'll use like an inset face frame and an integrated side panel, which means like, you know, the side of my cabinet doesn't have anything applied. It doesn't have an inset face frame. That corner automatically starts out with like your 3-inch style or whatever it is. It's like a
Yeah.
solid side. It's a solid, instead of having a 3/4 inch and plywood end, you have a wood paneled end.
Okay. I'm going to throw this out to the other staff here. Adrian, do you have any ideas? Any ways that we can accomplish that to get rid of the left and right style?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing a refresher here to see if I can recreate that case.
It's a common detail, and it's one that my cabinet maker has brought up to me a number of times.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I believe with the combination of inset door and a side panel, we don't have a way to force the panel to overlap that face frame right now. So I think that is something that there's not an automatic tool to make that happen.
Is there a way to eliminate face frame on a side of a cabinet? So for example, if you said the right style and left style were 0.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was looking for. I don't think that there's a way to do that. It's
Not for one side at a time, it's for the entire box.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that doesn't answer my question, but that was one of my questions.
Hold on just a second. Scott also has a thought. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Robin.
Hi, Scott, how are you?
I thought we limited the number of questions you could ask here.
No, like I get I am always a participant, so I get an extra number of questions.
So your question here about putting the panel so that it shows without any separation or any, you said you're using an inset without anything. If you zoom into what Kayla has there, there's a little bit of a border that goes all the way around, right?
Correct.
You want to get rid of it, but you can't do it on the side, and you can only do it for the entire box. So one of the things you could do as a potential is you could place the panel that you want separately. So don't put it on the cabinet. Place it separately in the plan, position it in your elevation view, and then you'll be able to see it. Other potential way that you could do it, if that doesn't cut it, is to make a very thin cabinet and change the attributes of that cabinet so that it has a complete full body on it. And it's just a 1/2 inch thick or something like that. And then you could put it on the side of it. It looks like Kayla is maybe positioning a door or drawer
Awesome.
separately. So there's a couple ways you could do that. And I believe your request of requesting that integrated side panel we have, but we don't do it automatically. So you're going to need to do it in some sort of a separate method, like Kayla's doing right now with positioning that.
So that relates to my second question, Scott. So it's only 2 questions today. is how does that relate to the cabinet schedule? Because I can't seem to get crown moldings and baseboard moldings, or if I want to have that panel end integrated into a cabinet, into a cabinet schedule that's attached to that cabinet without adding something to a comment line.
Well, let's take a look. If we open up this cabinet door that's been placed here, let's see if there's an option in there, Kayla.
Yeah, there's not a schedule option.
I always ask the hard questions.
Well, I can say this about that. I believe that cabinet doors are individually able to add to the schedules in the next version we have coming out. Also, I'm not sure, you could probably export that or make that an architectural block and force it to be in a schedule. That might be a little more involved for today's webinar, but that might be a couple options. And if maybe you wanted to stay on towards the latter part of the webinar, maybe we could even look at that, or we can explore it and get back to you.
That would be amazing, I would super appreciate that. But my second question is the moldings that we add to our cabinets, the crown moldings, for example, you have flat stock. I don't know if you could scroll up to your upper cabinets, but generally speaking, we stack moldings. So we'll stack like a flat stock and a crown molding. Yep, you have some moldings up above your cabinets. So when I print out a cabinet schedule to go to a manufacturer, I actually have to add like a text box to my cabinet schedule to include my moldings, because it doesn't include in the cabinet schedule. And oftentimes the manufacturers miss that because it's not included in the schedule. So how do I get my cabinet moldings to include in the schedule? You can click on that. If you open up the schedule, you can add moldings and it'll show you what that molding is. But that's not helpful to a cabinet manufacturer when it's like a molding per cabinet, when I need to add like, 24 feet of crown, 26 feet of flat stock, and 28 feet of base, or whatever it might be.
Mhm. So you're wanting like the linear feet of the
Yeah,
molding?
yeah. So it shows you the molding size that's per cabinet each. But I will tell you right now, I've been pushed back on that a number of times by cabinet manufacturers that doesn't count for adding moldings to a contract. So a way to like be able to add moldings or accrue what those moldings are per linear foot for the cabinets to go into a schedule.
I'm wondering, Al, do you know if there is a macro of some kind that can be added for that?
That's exactly what
I'm not aware specifically of a macro for that, but if you actually need something like that, you could just use molding polylines rather than attach it to the cabinet.
And can you add the molding polyline to a schedule?
That's a good question. I haven't tried that.
Because that's what I would need to do. It's like, I can certainly do that, and that's fine, not a big deal. Happy to do it. But I just need to be able to add that polyline to a schedule. So that way, when I print out my cabinet schedule, that's the order for the cabinet manufacturer, that I have all the components necessary.
Okay.
Can I pipe up on this first
the
question?
contractor.
Yeah, Al, what do you have to say about the first one?
The first question, can you open that side cabinet again, that one with the panel on it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you were to just create that panel like you did before,
Mm-hmm.
on the right side,
Oops. Right.
and call it a custom face. Now, where it says blank area, make that a door panel. Okay. Can you swing the view around?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, that's the panel. Okay.
That's-
Now,
that's-
if you click on the panel where it says panel,
Mm-hmm.
you should have a box that says appliance, door, and drawer, specify. And library is one of the items there. So you can go back to the library and put any panel you want on that side of the cabinet.
Does that add to the width of the cabinet?
That one
Because-
does, because this full cabinet is set to be a full overlay. If
Got
the
it.
cabinet in general was set to be an inset, then it would not.
Can you offset that panel, like say -3/4 of an inch somehow, so it's integrated?
Not in the way you're describing.
I don't think so. Not in the way you're describing. But anyway, that's a way to at least get something that looks appropriate.
And can
with
you do that
specifically.
if that box were inset? Would that door panel show, that door panel would subsequently show as inset, which is what I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah, so if the whole thing is inset, then all of them are inset.
Yeah, so if you change that box to inset, then that door panel is going to look inset as well, and it's going to show the face frames and not as an integrated panel.
Placing it
Yeah.
manually is probably your best bet for this, and just making it really, really thin. So it's basically a 1/16 of an inch or so.
I could do that. That's helpful. I just need to, like, my issue is like I'm trying to get things to show up in the cabinet schedule for cabinet makers. That's all.
Yeah.
Kayla, we have one last question. It's coming from Andre King. Hi, Andre. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi there.
Just a quick question for you. I know sometimes when you want to edit a cabinet, say whether it be the internal workings, shelving, hardware, what have you, sometimes I find that you'll have to go and do it for each cabinet, like say in an island setting where all the cabinets are supposed to carry one color. Is there any way that you can, I know you can do a global select where you hold down shift and select the whole set of cabinets, but when I get inside to try to change the materials, it's all grayed out. So which means I can only change them one at a time.
Hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes, if you're choosing different types of cabinets. So if you're choosing a base cabinet and a full height cabinet and a wall cabinet, you'll run into that. But if you choose multiple base cabinets, let's
Should
take
work.
a look here. We just open up 3 different base cabinets and come down to materials. We're grayed out because there's different variants to it, because some of them are using different
So it has to be
component
identical.
parts, I think they have to be pretty close to identical. I'm not sure what the logic behind the scenes is, but if we take these 2, see here we have one is a bank of drawers and one is a door and drawer, but since they're 24 inches and using the same door and drawer types, that's why we're showing up. So we have this framed double panel door, different handles, base cabinet. So that's one way to manage it. Otherwise, if you change your default materials, sometimes that can be a better way to handle it as well. So if you come into your defaults and look at your cabinet tools and we take a look at the base cabinet, I don't think we'll be able to open 3 cabinets at once, but let's just take a look. Yeah, that's not working, but we do have, you can obviously edit the base cabinet materials as a whole, wall cabinet and full height. But if we come down to materials, let's take a look at this. If I update the cabinet door drawer material here, and it should update for all of the general cabinets that were already following that default. Is that an accurate statement, Scott, Adrian? Does that sound correct?
Yep, that's how it works.
Okay. So down in materials, we do have material defaults for each of these, which is why when I unblocked my set of cabinets, we went back to a different default material that was set in our defaults. But yeah, in your default settings, under materials, this would be a more global setting to affect all of the cabinet door and drawers.
Okay.
And especially if you set this before you begin, that would be kind of your best route.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. But I was just looking at, you know, sometimes you have clients that you might be doing something for, and you want to probably show probably option 1, option 2, and therefore, you know, yeah. So I was just looking at it from that standpoint. If that original proposal had to change, if you changed it, how it would work versus probably having one option or one option alone.
Yeah, what I usually recommend is that the more that you can pay attention to how you're grouping your materials. So in this example, I'm using one material for all of my outer cabinets, and then I have a different material set for my island. So I know that when I paste a material for my island, I'm only going to be pasting the ones that are utilizing that particular material. So when you're talking about sitting down in front of a client, if you can think about how to set your materials to set yourself up for success, so that when you, like actually this particular plan is not set up for success for that, because if I, like this is a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. Because if I were to take a material and I were to paste that onto all of the cabinets in the room, they're using the same material as the molding. So what I recommend is that instead of doing that, you're using a unique material to the cabinets that you would like to be able to change all at the same time. So all of these outer cabinets maybe would have one material, and the island would be utilizing a different material, and those materials would be unique to those not used anywhere else in the plan.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Thanks. Okay.
of course.
All right.
Kayla, we had Amy write in and she was wondering if you could demonstrate your process for making the open shelves you have there.
I would love to. So these are just using the shelf tool. So the way that I will do it, and I'll just delete all of these here. So the shelves are placed separate from the corbels. Let's get into an elevation view. That's going to be much easier. So in a wall elevation, let me select to delete all of these before. There we go. All right, so in this elevation, I'm going to go ahead and place one shelf. So under our cabinet options, we have a shelf. I'm going to get this one shelf positioned. So I'll resize it. And usually I like to make my shelves a little bit thicker than that 3/4 inch. And then if I need to, I'll change the materials for it. Before I do anything else, I'm going to open up this and make sure that it's set the right floor to top. So I'll start with either the top or the bottom one, whichever one's easier. Let's say we have a 90 inches floor to top for our top cabinet, or shelf, excuse me. And then I will find a corbel. I have some in this library. Let's take a look. So whichever corbel I want to use, I'll just go ahead and click in the plan to place it. Oh no, there it is. Make sure so it's sitting on the floor. That's why we couldn't see it. So we're going to change its floor to top to, what is it, 88 inches. This is also why I have 2D and 3D side by side typically, so I can not have to swap between views. But I'll redimension this if need be. Otherwise, I'll just copy and have a couple of different corbels. And then once I have all of these items placed, I'm going to go ahead and control select all of them. And I'm going to use multiple copy or transform replicate, one or the other, to go ahead and copy them out. Let's say they need to each be 18 inches apart. Set my offset to 18 inches, and then drag out those copies. And that's it.
Sounds good. We've gotten to all the questions.
Great. All right. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. And remember, next week we're going to be focusing in on kitchen lighting and electrical. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to go and sign up. It's going to be the same time, same place. So hopefully we will see you all then. Thank you so much.